Here is the insane interview that he did with Meet the Press exclusive, where he had a bunch of horrifying moments, horrifying for those who have any semblance of conscience, where in some of the key moments he basically said things like, I don't know about due process. It's kind of difficult to follow due process, things of that nature. So let's take a look.
Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here to mark your first 100 days in office. It has been an incredibly busy 100 days. You've signed more than 140 executive orders. You've been focused.
When he starts taking Q&As, we'll get to Trump live, by the way, because he's signing executive orders again, and he's most likely going to do a Q&A afterwards. But when the Q&A starts, we'll get to it. But before the Q&A, we'll listen to some of his statements here.
Focused on the border, the economy, foreign policy. What is your biggest goal in the next 100 days?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of results. We've already seen them on the border. We have the best border in the history of our country. It was 99.999, and nobody ever thought that was possible. In fact, Biden, if you remember, said he has to get legislation. And I said, no, you just need a new president. And I guess I was right. We have the best border we've ever had. We're doing great on illegal immigration. We are being hit hard by judges that I think they're trying to take away the power of the presidency. I was elected in a massive landslide and a big vote. We won the swing states. We won the popular vote. We won the district votes by tremendous numbers. We won everything. And one of the primary reasons I was elected was to get people out of our country that were allowed. We have prisoners, we have murderers, we have terrorists in our country, we have people from mental institutions that are seriously insane. They all came in through Biden's open border policy, and I was elected to get them out and to seal the border, but to get them out. And we'll have judges, they're activist judges, they're saying, well, you don't have the right to take out murderers and people that you don't even want to talk about. These are really some really bad criminal people, and they're here illegally. So, they talk about your next question will be due process, but they talk about due process, but do you get due process when you're here illegally?
We're going to talk about all of that. We are going to talk about deportation, but I want to start on the economy, sir, which obviously the biggest issue for voters. We got new numbers today, better than expected job numbers.
Much better.
At the same time, the economy shrank in the first quarter. You've been arguing all week that this is President Biden's economy. Is this now your economy, sir?
Well, I think certain aspects of it are. Costs are. I was able to get down the costs, but even that, it takes a while to get them down, but we got them down good. We lost $5 to $6 billion a day with Biden. $5 to $6 billion. And I've got that down to a great number right now in a record time. We're talking about 100 days. But just think of what that is. $5 billion a day we're losing on trade. And we were very tough with China, as you know. We put 145% tariff on. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing. And we've essentially cut off trade relationships by putting that much of a tariff on. And that's okay. We've gone cold turkey. That means that we're not losing. We lost $1 trillion to China. $1 trillion. That means we're not losing $1 trillion when we go cold turkey because we're not doing business with them right now. And they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal. But think of it. We're losing $1 trillion. And that was a big part of the $5 million a day.
And I want to talk about China, but just staying on this idea of the economy. On the eve of your inauguration, the stock market spiked. You called it the Trump effect.
It spiked because I was elected president. Well, it spiked because of anybody else. It spiked because they see what I'm...
Yeah, and then now the market instability is also spiking in the opposite direction. There is one metric that's spiking. The volatility index, the VIX. As far as other parts of the market that are spiking, they're spiking in either direction. As a matter of fact, it just keeps going like this, depending on whatever the he's saying that day. So, It's still a spike. It's a spike. Let me tell you, it's a big spike. You hear about this VIX? Someone should get in on this VIX. Everyone keeps telling me the VIX, the volatility index, they're saying it's like a new technology, I think. Volatility sounds like a technological tool. You know, they call them groceries. I call them, as they call it, volatility index, as they call them.
Going to do. They know what I'm going to do with the tariffs and everything else. And I think it's actually working out better than we anticipated. Did you see oil prices? Did you see gasoline is now below, in many cases, in many states, below $2 a gallon, $1.98, $1.99, $1.97?
Well, my question, sir, is when the stock market spiked, you said this is the Trump effect. When the numbers weren't so good earlier this week, you said it's the Biden effect. Are you only taking ownership of the good numbers and not the bad numbers?
I think he did a lot of very bad things, and despite some of the bad things, we're overcoming them. But he was bad on the border. He was bad on the economy. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Look, Biden gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. People, it didn't matter what they made because they were losing their shirt because of costs. Now take a look at what happened. Oil is down, gasoline is down, groceries are down, eggs. You were the one that asked me. You asked me about eggs. It was the first week. I didn't even know anything about what were you talking about. Egg prices were so high you couldn't buy eggs. They didn't have any eggs. And they said Easter is going to be a disaster. Well, we had Easter at the White House, and we had thousands of eggs, and they were down 87%.
Yeah, a lot of that, of course, spike was because of bird flu. But when does it become the Trump economy?
Why do you say that?
Well, tell me,
we had the same bird flu as he had.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
Yo! Dude, yes! Yes! You rarely ever hear such clarity, okay? Yeah, the good parts are me. The bad parts are Brandon. It's how it is. It is how it is. Well, okay, it's all bad. So what's up? It's all Brandon. It's all Brandon. How are his supporters defending this? Dude, at a certain point, you have to realize, it's no longer about, like, accurate information. It's no longer about exercising critical thinking. We have long passed that point. All politics is devolving into cults. This is something that you can experience even with, like, the debate that I had, the quote unquote debate that I had on Friday. Okay. Everything is turning into cults. Everything is basically turning into, like, I parasocially love this person, Donald Trump. He is my GOAT. He is my king. He is my legend. He can do no wrong. Everything he says is awesome. Everything everyone else is saying about him is bad faith. That's how it is. That is how it is. Okay? Look no further than the rest of the internet going, what the was this guy up to on the Friday debate versus Ethan Klein's own community turning around and being like, you killed him, King. You destroyed him. And all of the edgelord, apolitical centrist commentary slop tubers running around being like, yeah, you destroyed him when you conceded on virtually every point, including admitting to smearing him and consistently saying, oh, this is boring, let's move on, whenever you found yourself to be wrong. You know, I'll go so far as to say there is a cult-like aspect to what I do as well. The difference here, however, is that I try to reach a broad spectrum of different ideologies on a daily basis and entertain back and forth from people who disagree with me. So, you know, you get to, when you're in here, you get to see a full spectrum of opinions.
Because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. From his auto pen, which I'm sure he knew nothing about some of the things he was supposedly signing, to immigration. You look at what happened with immigration, how bad it was. Think of it. We have murderers, 11,888 murderers. Many of them murdered more than one person. Think of that. And they're in our country. Now, we've gotten a lot of them out, and we know who many of them are, and we're on the hunt. But why would anybody do that? Why would anybody, who could do such a thing where they'd allow hundreds of thousands and even millions of people into our country who are criminals and murderers at the highest level? Who would do this?
But, sir, you acknowledge when you announced your tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
Do you
but now
take
it's going up.
responsibility
Look at
for that?
today.
Yeah. Do you take
Look,
responsibility when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3 months. But the stock market, look at what's happened in the last short period of time. Didn't it have 9 or 10 days in a row or 11 days where it's gone up? And the tariffs have just started kicking in. And we're doing really well psychologically. I mean, the fake news was giving me such press on the tariffs. The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
So let's talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
You know what's really interesting? I'm sitting on a mountain of unopened artifacts, okay? Figurines that I did not even realize would become a goddamn chest of gold, okay? Like, you can't really see from this angle on the camera, but like above, behind me, all over this room are figurines that are now going to be like $1,000 a pop. I never thought that this would be a moment where I could just be like, listen, dude, your line ass saying you don't invest. Yeah, I have invested. I've never even taken them out of the box. No boo-boo lemons. No boo-boo lemons. None of the boo-boo lemons. Boo-boo lemons, folks. Cutie Cinderella. She's a very nasty lady. Very nasty. Said so many nasty things about me. I made sure she can't get any boo-boo lemons at her deco den. No more le boo-boos.
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls.
This is like, this is just like degrowth. I don't know. He's like, that's right. It's they're calling it degrowth. That's right. This is not a leftist, not a Marxist, communist, fascist position. This is now the position of Trump.
Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Well, prices are already going up on some popular items, tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person. And that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us with inflation was the price of energy. It went up to $3.90, even $4, and in California, $5 and $6, right? Okay. I have it down to $1.98 in many states right now. When you go that much lower on energy, which is ahead of my prediction because I really thought I could get it down into the 250s. We have it down at $1.98 in numerous places. But when you say costs are going up, even mortgage rates are going down.
Well, but let me give you some examples. These are actual examples. So you're saying the prices that are going down, some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
Excuse me, that's peanuts compared to energy. Energy is 60% of the cost.
But sir, you campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day
Well, I don't know. When you say strollers are going up, what kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to Americans who say they voted for you because they want and they need relief right now?
And they're getting it.
Right now? What about those
even mortgage rates?
different items I just
Mortgage
mentioned?
rates are going down, despite the fact that we have a stubborn Fed.
But you said even dolls could cost a couple bucks more.
Maybe they might, but you don't need to have, as I said, $35. You can have 2, 3, 4, and save a lot of money. We don't need to feed the beast.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost.
I never thought that in my entire life, I never thought I would hear a Republican American president say these words, like advocating for degrowth openly. It's just like, yeah, why do you need so many treats? Like, this is so crazy. This is like, does he not realize that this is what allows Americans to not revolt? Like, the only thing that maintains American stability is a steady flow of treats. You take away our health care. You take away all of the social safety nets. The infrastructure is underwater. Every single day is another awful thing taking place in real time. People are horrified about the future and what it holds for them. But the one thing that keeps everyone alive, that maintains stability, is treats. And now Donald Trump, who some might even say ran on lowering the cost of treats and making them bountiful once again, is turning around and saying, you don't want the treats. Oh my God, Kohei Saito said based. This is Kohei Saito is a Japanese academic, Marxist academic, who is famously a big degrowth advocate. What a wild time to be alive, man.
How long should people expect that transition to last?
Comrade Trump is focusing on heavy industry instead of caving to bourgeois commodity fetishism. Welcome back, Comrade Stalin. Yeah.
Mr. President.
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than 5.
Once again, every time Trump gets to say these things, it pisses me off and it makes me incredibly and uncontrollably jealous. I am red with envy because I'm imagining a world where Bernie Sanders is also doing similar things after developing a robust manufacturing base and saying, we're going to have some fiscal belt tightening. And I feel like if he were to come out and say that, like, there would be a Goldman Sachs assassin in the room. You know what I mean? They would send the CIA after him. I'm green with envy, not red with envy. Sorry. ESL. Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. And Asman would be saying not based. Yeah. If you even say, yeah, if you even had a Democrat say this, that would get business plotted for sure. The MAGA communists are happy about this one for sure. I mean, oh God, we can't hear anything. What is happening here?
Listen.
Speaking of Asman, yeah, I saw this already.
That a young lady, a 10-year-old girl, 9-year-old girl, 15-year-old girl doesn't need $37. She could be very happy with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I would. Let's not waste a lot of time on a stupid question. What else?
Fuck you, piece of shit. I hope your entire family goes down the same way you will. Walter Fart. Are you talking to Donald Trump? Sometimes I can't tell if like they're responding to what they see on the screen or if they're saying that about me. It's always interesting trying to understand where this is coming from, you know? Like where I'm talking to you, R word. Okay. What did I do? Following says May 2nd, so not good faith. I mean, yeah, of course. He's like, you, dude. How dare you talk about our base, glorious MAGA communist king, Donald Trump? He is advocating for degrowth. You fake ass monster.
$1 billion a day.
The children deserve less toys, dude. Shut the fuck up.
$5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look,
How soon?
We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars
What's
with
the
China.
anger from this guy?
Now we're
Maybe he'll tell
essentially
us.
not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. It's very simple.
You take me.
So much of this process also revolves around not even like fixing the trade deficits or anything like that, but instead trying to get all of the other countries within our sphere of influence to slowly but surely decouple from China. They do not, like, America does not want China to be the manufacturing hub for the planet. And they are actively trying to fight back against it. It's fine if you take it to India. India is more controllable. Just don't work with China. That's the whole point. Because they're not going to actually bring garment manufacturing back to the United States. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think this is going to be able to. I don't think he's going to see much success in this regard.
To my next question, which is about China. They've been making a number of public statements.
Very positive statements the last 24 hours.
Well, and most recently, they said before talks could happen, the U.S. would need to remove unilateral tariffs. Would you consider dropping the tariffs to get China to the negotiating table?
No. They first of all, you're giving me a statement that was said a week ago. You're not giving the statement that was said today.
I have May 2nd Chinese Commerce Ministry.
Do you know what they said today?
The U.S. wants to negotiate.
Forward.
It should show sincerity by preparing to take actions in correcting its mistakes and canceling the unilateral tariffs.
They made, first of all, they made numerous statements.
They've made numerous statements.
You know how many people speak for China? It's like 50
They've made numerous statements.
I can give you a statement for any occasion.
Yes.
But they said today they want to talk. Look, China, and I don't like this. I'm not happy about this. China's getting killed right now. They're getting absolutely destroyed. Their factories are closing. Their unemployment is going through the roof. I'm not looking to do that to China.
So here's what I'll say. I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and he actually had a really interesting analogy where basically right now it looks to be by Western analysts, and I don't think that this is, I don't agree with this analysis in general, but like the analysis is that China is on a three-legged stool and it's under a lot of pressure. You know, there's issues with its real estate market, and they have issues with their birth rate decline, and there's not a lot of great future prospect for China. This is the analysis from the Western world, right? From Western analysts. And what America is seeking to do is basically try and apply extra pressure, because this will most likely be the last moment that America will ever be able to apply pressure to China. Okay? They say this is the last moment that they will ever be able to apply pressure to China. It's the last moment where America has an opportunity. So Trump is doing this like incredibly cruel and a ridiculous scheme to try and force every other trade partner of China to decouple from China. The problem, however, is, and you might have noticed why I said this is America's last opportunity to do this, is because America is on a two-legged stool. So even I think Western analysts that cope about China's positioning on the global stage as a trade partner, they are still very aware of America's position on the global stage as well. That is precisely the reason why the Americans, this is precisely the reason why it's like the last ditch effort to basically apply pressure and try to tilt Chinese manufacturing. And if they don't do this now, then it's over. It's completely fucking over. Okay? I suspect that China is not on a three-legged stool, but instead a four-legged stool, and America is on a one-legged stool spinning like a top, as someone in the chat said. That is what I think. America's on a one-legged stool spinning like a top, and the leg of the stool is also made in China. Ironically enough. The analogy with a three-legged stool is that it means it doesn't wobble at all. A four-legged can wobble. Okay, whatever. Two-legged stool for China and one-legged stool for America then. That is the analysis. And yet, it seems to me like maybe it's not going the way that America thought it would. As ASEAN joins Japan, China, and South Korea in protectionism warning, finance and central bank chiefs reaffirm commitment to free trade. Here is the statement, not paywalled. China, Japan, and South Korea and the countries of ASEAN just issued a joint statement in which they take a unified stance against escalating trade protectionism, a clear reference to Trump's tariffs. They write that their common policy priority is to reinforce long-term resilience of the region, which, given the policies they detail, clearly means building financial and trade infrastructure that aims to reduce their exposure to the United States. The statement outlines a comprehensive strategy to strengthen trade between the signatories, enhance local currency bond markets, and reduce dependence on Western financial institutions via, for instance, their expansion of the Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization, CMIM. Particularly notable is their explicit support for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the RCEP, ACN, the world's largest trade agreement that includes all signatories but not the United States. All in all, Trump is achieving the unthinkable, bringing East and Southeast Asia together in an economic bloc that seeks to de-risk itself from America. Now, I don't know if this is just strategy so that the other signatories can leverage America for more, because that could be the case. Or if this is a real shot directly at Trump to say, we are not decoupling from China. I know that that is your demand, but we're not going to do that. They are far too valuable a trade partner for us to sever ties with. So we will not do that, especially because if they were to do that, there is no alternative. There's no alternative as it stands. There's no, like rare earth minerals, right? Rare earth minerals. The refinement process of rare earth minerals is entirely in the hands of China. They have a complete monopoly on refinement. They almost have a monopoly on procurement too, with all of the deals that they've negotiated with nations in Africa. Okay. But they literally have a complete monopoly on the refinement process. You can't do anything without that. What are you supposed to do? You can't do anything. So why would, where is the alternative? Is it in India? Is that going to happen? What is the runway for such a thing? 10 years? 5 years? Ah, yes, Twitter reporting at its finest. Twitter reporting. Brother, I'm looking at the joint statement from ASEAN +3 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting. There is no more a primary source than what we are currently looking at. The fuck do you mean Twitter reporting at its finest? Hello? Where should I get my news from? Fox News only? Where they tell you that it's actually great. Donald Trump is our Lord and Savior. He's cooking big time. Is that what it is? Please tell me where I should be going to get this information. Come on, raw meat enjoyer. Maybe the raw meat has caused you to develop some brain worms. I don't know. You gonna tell me you have an alternative or what? Come on, man. Give me an alternative news resource that I don't look at. Come on, brother. It's time to own me in the marketplace of ideas. I'm shaking you a little bit. Shaky, shaky. Shake the baby. It's funny because I initially also went to Nikkei and they were paywalled. So in order to bypass the paywall, I went to the direct joint statement and it was posted on Twitter, but he didn't see that part. He just saw me on Twitter and responded like an animal. Yeah, I should be getting it from a pedophile VTuber. That's where I should be getting my primary information. My primary resource is a lolicon enjoying pedophile VTuber with questionable morals. Anyway.
Now, at the same time, I'm not looking to have China make hundreds of billions of dollars and build more ships and more army tanks and more airplanes.
So you're not, just to be very clear, you're not dropping the tariffs against China to get them to the negotiating table. Those tariffs are staying on.
Why would I do that?
Would you lower them?
at some point I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them.
Yeah.
And they want to do business very much. Look, their economy is really doing badly. Their economy is collapsing.
So small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut
And
down.
many businesses are being helped.
Are you
Look at the
considering
automobile
tariff
business.
relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you know, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what's Trump's done for the automobile? But I can't believe it. I assume he's going to probably now say the next thing he can say is, I endorse this guy. He's the greatest I've ever seen. He can't believe it's happened. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking you about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
Are these tariffs?
If you build your product here. Remember, there are no tariffs if you build your product here. It's very easy. It's very simple.
Are these tariffs permanent?
Wait, what? I was working on a project that was a novel method of purifying rare earth minerals using lasers, but our grant is now pending thanks to Trump. Oh my God, that's amazing. That's so funny. That's just like, we're burning the candle on both ends, dude. It is, oh my Lord. It is, yeah. Half of the research team is like foreign students that, half of the research team is like foreign students on visas that have now gotten their visas revoked too, or are in detention because they were in the periphery of a pro-Palestine protest and had parking tickets. So now they're getting deported. Amazing.
Minute, Mr. President?
Depends on what you're talking about. One of the things that is going to bring and has brought, so I think we probably have close to $9 trillion of investments coming into this country. If you look at other presidents, there's never been anything like that. This is over a period of 2 months. You got to give me a little break on the 1 month because we're 3 months. But, you know, let's say we had to get started. We had a lot of.
Give me a little break. Dude, the funniest part about this is that if he didn't do the like tariff scheme, none of this would be happening. Like, so it's not even like, oh, you got to give me 1 month. Give me a little break. Cut me a little break here. Like, no, you are the one who it up. Like, this is your own design. Of course this was going to happen. And the medicine analogy isn't even wrong. That's the worst part. The economy is going to hurt in the short term, but we must, you know, train our crosshairs on the long-term agenda of American stability, American growth, American manufacturing. That isolated as a statement is absolutely a correct statement. That's why the likes of Sean Fain and some others have been like, listen, we think that this is irresponsible tariff trade war, but if done correctly, tariffs are not bad. You know, trade protectionism is something that we are on board with. We don't like free trade. I get it. I don't like free trade. So what is, Fain didn't call it irresponsible? Yes, Sean Fain did call it irresponsible. Come on, man. I'm the #1 Sean Fain dick rider. Are you kidding me? He said, if done correctly, we are on board with Trump's tariffs agenda in the automotive sector. If done recklessly, it will be irresponsible and lead to real harm. Why do you think that the leader of one of the largest labor unions in the country would ever come out with a statement saying we love free trade? You know? Of course not.
Fake news at the beginning, so we had to beat that down. But so let's say in 2 months. So in just a short period of time, a matter of a couple of months, we have the largest number.
He isn't going to do it correctly, right? We know that much. I mean, he hasn't. That's the whole point. He has not done it correctly. That's why there's so much. I mean, there would be instability. There would be volatility regardless. Okay. When you're rewriting trade agreements that contradict the past 40 years of American currency dominance, American currency sovereignty, the past 40 years of trade in general that we designed, yeah, of course there's going to be an economic impact instantly. The correct way, what is the correct way? I will repeat myself once again. The correct way to do this is unironically going above and beyond what the CHIPS Act was trying to do with the Brandon administration, which is to build a infrastructure and a robust manufacturing, domestic manufacturing base in the country so that there is some manufacturing that could compete with China and other global trade partners to begin with. This would require heavy subsidies, and not even subsidies, actually. This would require for America to basically turn into a command economy. If you were to do this correctly, you would have to do it the Chinese way, in the almost exact same way that China did it. And then once you have a trained labor force ready to take on ready to take on manufacturing at its most complex form, okay, precision manufacturing, then you would be able to do some trade protectionism. And in the interim, if you were to do trade protectionism, it would require you to do trade protectionism against things that we already have trade protectionist policies against already, like car manufacturing, things like that. The problem, of course, is that we don't do that in this country. We've never done that. We just basically give subsidies out and have no expectation in return. You know, price stability, sure, right? We subsidize and then we say, all right, just keep the prices relatively low. But many of those subsidies basically go back to the profit margins so that the stock market is supercharged rather than keeping costs low and keeping wages high, which would eat away at the profit margins. And there are no consequences for not following through on this bargain anyway. There's no regulatory mechanism that turns around and tells companies to just stop doing stock buybacks, for example. There's no penalties for doing whatever the fuck you want to do. Everything is incredibly decentralized. There's also no long-term plan longer than 4 years. 4 years? Try 4 months. Try 3 months. This is the reason why this inconsistency, this instability that Trump has presented to global trade is destined to fail. Okay? Because there is no trade to protect, and you're just demanding by bullying other countries, by putting a gun to your own head because you're the bank, putting a gun to your head and saying, I'm going to kill myself if you don't stop trading with the enemy. But people still need goods. So what are they supposed to do?
Ever in history invested in the United States and committed. We have between guaranteed, spoken for, and people that are going to make a decision and announce it pretty soon, close to $9 trillion. We've never had anything close. Now, that's Apple building $500 billion worth of plants. They always built their plants in China. Now they're building their plants over here. That's the biggest computer company, the biggest chip company in the world. You know, the chip company from Taiwan, which is the biggest in the world, is committed for $500 billion.
Yeah, in the short term, you get assurances from some of these multi-billion dollar mega corporations that are multinational to turn around and say, like, sure, we'll do some investment in America. Why not? There's no assurances, though. It's not going to happen. You don't know if it's going to happen. Are they building the factories? How long would it take? Yeah, it's like this chatter. I also commit $10 trillion into the United States. You know? Content warning, dead animal in his house. Took the day off to find some dead animal in my attic that smelled bad and ended up falling through the ceiling. Pretty sure I'm living in Sen's fortress. Oh my God. Oh my God, Asmongold, what the fuck? I can't even see the dead animal. I have no idea what's going on, but this is unironically something he posted. What the dude, this is the face of the new American right. I don't even know what Zen's Fortress is. Oh, it's Dark Souls? I'm begging to play Dark Souls. It's from DS1. I played DS1. I didn't finish it. Or did I finish it? I can't remember. Dark Souls reference. I can smell this photo, man. It's an early game area, so no, you haven't finished it yet. I mean, I don't remember any of the places in Elden Ring either. What do you mean? And I finished that on stream or Sekiro. My brain is filled with information that that oftentimes has the capacity to push out other more relevant, more important gaming related trivia. It's so gross, but 100% also on brand for him. His chat loves it. I know.
Another one's committed for $300 billion. We have companies, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Let me tell you the other thing, very importantly, automobile companies, plant after plant after plant, Toyota, Honda, Ford, General Motors, Stellantis. I mean, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I don't like this, but it happens to be. They're stopping work in Mexico and they're stopping work in Canada, and they're all moving here.
This is important, though. You're not taking the possibility that these tariffs could be permanent off the table. Some of them.
Oh, I wouldn't do that, because if somebody thought they were going to come off the table, why would they build in the United States?
Let me ask you
You
about,
understand that, right?
Yeah, but that's why I'm asking, because there's a lot of, I think, uncertainty for CEOs, for business owners. They want to know, are these tariffs permanent?
I think there's only uncertainty in the fake news. I don't think there's uncertainty. I mean, I've been very rigid, very strong on it, but I will say I'm flexible. Like with respect to parts made outside of the country, I gave the automobile companies a little extra time. You know, you're talking about 15% and then 10% of the parts put in a car. I gave them a little extra time without penalizing them. And I did that only to help, companies. We're looking to help companies. We want them to thrive and to hire a lot of people. And that's what's happening.
Let me ask you about some of what Wall Street has said. Some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I can tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And that's my question,
Remember
the
this.
long term. Yeah. Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically. One of your colleagues on another fake news station, ABC, said, do you guarantee 100% that a certain person is going to do a fantastic job as, let's say, Secretary of Defense, okay? Because that was the question. I said, what kind of a question is that? Do I guarantee 100%? Nobody guarantees 100%. But I will say this. I think we're going to have an economy the likes of which we've never had before. My 4 years were phenomenal, as you know, the stock market. In fact, even though we had to go through the COVID thing, that horrible situation with COVID, we did numbers, and when I gave it over, when I handed it over, the election was rigged, and because of that, we have a lot of problems, by the way. But when I handed it over, what happened? The market was higher than it was previous to COVID coming in. Yeah. Nobody could believe it. The stock market I'm talking about.
I don't want to look back, but you did take your case to court about that.
Back.
You took your case to court about your allegations against the election. Let me ask you,
sir. There's no question about it. The election was rigged. The facts are in, and it's still being litigated. Let's go.
You did take your case to court more than 60 times and didn't win those cases.
I won a lot of court cases.
Just to button that up, though, sir. Just to button that up.
What are you talking about?
How
the election
worried are you?
Are we talking about the election
Let's talk about here and now. Let's talk about
the
here and now.
election of 2020?
Let's not talk about. Let's talk about here and now. Are you worried about a recession?
No.
Okay.
No. I think we're going to have the greatest economic.
I mean, are you worried it could happen? Do you think it could happen?
Anything can happen, but I think we're going to have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to have the greatest economic boom in history.
Let me ask you about this call to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos this week in response to a report that Amazon was going to display tariff costs next to product prices. Are you going to punish CEOs who increased their prices because of tariffs?
I think what is a great misnomer is the word tariff in many cases, it's not, to me, I don't view it as a tax. I view it as an incentive for people to come into the United States and build plants, factories, offices, a lot of things. I think it's an incentive, but the thing that's not known is if you look back and see, oftentimes like China or Vietnam or other countries, not just China, because China's an abuser, but there are other abusers. Many of them are friends, the so-called, I say friend and foe, and friend is oftentimes worse than foe. But what people don't understand is, and this is a lot, the country eats the tariff, the company eats the tariff, and it's not passed along at all.
Well, some CEOs are saying they're going to have to pass it on. So how do you deal with those CEOs?
But the company,
how do you deal with those CEOs?
China.
Famously, it's not. Companies love eating the cost. I like that he's at least recognizing that companies actually pay the tariff. But what is this? I don't know if this means anything, but I thought you were taking a day off, and then I realized I was no longer following you on Twitch. I didn't unfollow. Anyone else experiencing anything like this, or am I going bonkers? You're going bonkers, dude. Yeah. Companies famously love eating the cost. They have this... They have a sense of pride, a civic duty. Remember when they did that? Remember when OPEC did that? When the invasion of Ukraine started, and then all of the oil and gas industry in America famously was like, "Oh yeah, we'll make up for the manufacturing needs. We'll actually sell to America so that prices can remain stable." Yeah. Remember another instance of companies eating the cost. Remember when they famously lowered their prices post-COVID, when there was no longer an issue with logistics? I'm always thinking about companies eating the cost all the time.
Is eating the tariffs right now.
What do you say to those CEOs who are saying we might have to pass this on to the consumer?
Well, they say that because maybe it's to their advantage to say it.
Will
Maybe
you punish them?
No, because you know what? I want them to build plants in the United States. That way they don't have any tariffs. See, tariffs will, and not only will, look at what's happened. In 2 months, we're close to $9 trillion of investment. We've never been anywhere near that.
What did you say to Jeff Bezos?
He's just a very nice guy. We have a relationship. I asked him about it. He said, well, I don't want to do that. And he took it off immediately.
So he changed course. And will you take that same tactic with other CEOs if you
I'll
feel
always
like...
call people if I disagree with them. If I think that somebody's doing something that's incorrect, wrong, or maybe hurtful to the country, I'll call, absolutely. Wouldn't you want me to call? Biden wouldn't call because he didn't know what was happening, but I do.
Takes me to my next question. Today's strong jobs report likely means, not clear, but likely means the Fed is less likely to lower interest rates.
Well, he should lower them, and at some point he will. He'd rather not because he's not a fan of mine, just doesn't like me because I think he's a total stiff. And, it's just one of those things. He should lower them. And
He appointed him, by the way. His appointment wants to get another Trump appointee that Trump is just shitting on. He's a total stiff. Whoever appointed this guy is a real idiot.
I wish the people that are on that board would get him to lower because we are at a perfect time. It's already late, but he should lower interest rates.
Do you rule out removing Fed Chair Jerome Powell?
I'm not, I get to change him very quickly anyway. It's in a very short period of time.
In 2026. You're not going to remove, you don't have plans to remove him before 2026 when his time's up?
That was a total, why would I do that? I get to replace the person in another short period of time.
Okay. This week, you reshuffled your national security team.
Yeah.
You moved National Security Advisor Mike Waltz to UN ambassador. Just to remind our viewers, Waltz, of course, started that unsecure text chain where sensitive information was shared. Mr. President, was that move a punishment?
No, I just think he'll do a nice job in the new position. Marco's doing an outstanding job. No, Marco won't keep, Marco's very busy doing other things, so he's not going to keep it long term. We're going to put somebody else in. But I think Mike, who's, as you know, he's a fine guy, and I think he'll do a very good job. Knows the countries, knows leadership, and I think he'll do a very good job at the United Nations. And in the meantime, Marco's really doing something special, and it's going to work out very well.
We're hearing some potential names. Stephen Miller's name, one of your longtime, most loyal aides. His name has been talked about as a potential national security advisor. Is he someone you're looking at?
Well, I'd love to have Stephen there, but that would be a downgrade. Stephen is much higher in the totem pole than that, in my opinion.
Can you tell us who the front runner is right now?
I have a lot of people that want it. I will tell you, I have everybody calling. Everybody wants to be a part of this administration. So at some point, we'll, probably do that. There's a theory, Henry Kissinger did both. There's a theory that you don't need two people, but I think I have some really great people that could do a good job.
So Secretary Rubio could continue to have both jobs indefinitely?
He could, yeah, he could. But I think he even would like to probably see.
When I'm talking about good foreign policy decisions, I love bringing up Henry Kissinger. Great.
Because it is a little bit different. But in the meantime, he'll handle it. And I think Mike, if that goes forward, he still has to get approved. But I think Mike will do a very good job at the United Nations. Defense
Secretary Pete Hegseth, obviously also on that unsecure text chain. He was sharing sensitive information. Are you looking for a new Secretary of Defense?
No, not even a little bit. No. Pete's going to be great.
His job is safe right now?
We're doing a fantastic job against the Houthis
who
like blowing ships up and watching them sink in the ocean. We're hitting him very hard. No, he's doing a very good job.
His job is safe right now?
Totally safe.
Okay. Let's talk about the border.
Okay.
Let's talk about deportations. Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border...
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
It's absolutely
isn't that good?
secure.
When you say that, doesn't that just sound good? After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border, criminals from all over the world, murderers and insane people from mental institutions and insane asylums. Isn't it a beautiful thing when you say it's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country? Isn't that a nice statement?
Well, I'm curious to know what it means. You declared a national emergency on the southern border. The order is still in place.
By the way,
even though you're saying
exactly
the border's
what you
secure.
said. It means we have the most secure border we've ever had.
Well, and I guess the question becomes, when will you know that the emergency is over? Are you planning to lift it at some point? Is it necessary? Because obviously the military is involved. Will you lift that emergency?
Well, the biggest emergency is the courts aren't allowing us to take really.
We're going to talk about that, but talk to me first about this.
That's to me the emergency.
Talk to me first about this.
The border now is not the emergency. The border is it's all part of the same thing, though. The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take.
This is a surprisingly good interview, by the way.
Out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to.
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including 3 on the Supreme Court.
They change. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do
she's
change.
Actually
just to button this up, though, are you planning to lift that emergency order anytime soon?
No,
now that the border's secure?
We have an emergency. We have a massive emergency overall. It's an overall emergency on immigration, and if the courts don't allow us to take people out. If we had to have a court case, think of it, every single person, we have millions of people. We're going to have millions of court cases. Figure 2 weeks a court case, it would be 300 years.
So let's talk about this, because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past, of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. From a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision.
I do think it's kind of funny, even if it's scary, that we've completely dropped all pretense that the DOJ is supposed to be independent. He just keeps talking about the DOJ as his lawyers. They're not supposed to be your lawyers, dude. They're a part of the Department of Justice. You're acting like they're your lawyers. And I know they are, but that's crazy to just say. We've moved beyond any semblance of normalcy.
In the way you said it, they don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have
ordered?
the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the attorney general that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, you know, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that. There are some people that say, bring him back, put him in trial, and you get him out right away because you see what happened just this morning. Tapes came out, horrible tapes from his wife. You don't get much worse than that. You don't get, I mean, he seems certainly like a very...
Trump's ex-wife literally detailed out how Donald Trump physically, violently assaulted her and raped her throughout their marriage. I'm pretty sure, right? The tapes he's referencing is like, I think it was like the initial, the initial testimony to get a, to potentially get a temporary restraining order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia had a temporary restraining order taken out against him, or at least filed for, that was never enforced by his wife at the time, the woman who was like demanding his return to the country. She's already talked about this and said that this was like out of an abundance of caution and that they had very clearly worked out their differences by going to counseling. Out of an abundance of caution due to the actual domestic abuse that she had received in her first relationship before Kilmar Abrego Garcia, she took out a TRO. Stop mentioning Trump's ex-wives. We're not talking about Trump right now. We're talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And he is referencing Kilmar Abrego Garcia's temporary restraining order petition when he says the tapes came out.
Very dangerous, very bad person. But even the wife who was so afraid, she was afraid to talk. And all of a sudden, tapes got released this morning that were devastating to him.
And this is the point, sir, about due process. The Constitution says every person, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Why not push to have him come back, present all of that evidence in court, let a judge decide?
Well, I'll leave that to the lawyers, and I'll leave that to the Attorney General of the United States.
But
because they're in it. You have to understand, I'm dealing with Russia and Ukraine. I'm dealing
and we're
with
going to talk
China.
about that.
I'm dealing with Iran. I'm dealing with Rwanda and Congo, who are fighting, and we're trying to get that one straightened out, and I think we have done that. Did a great job. Nobody even talks about it, but I think we're close to doing that. They're looking like they're going to maybe make a peace deal, which would be good. But I'm dealing with a lot of different things. I don't know much about this gentleman other than I hear he's an absolute not good person. And I have very capable legal people, John Sauer, as you know, and all top people. And I have to rely on that to interpret whatever's said by the Supreme Court. Now, with that being said, I have tremendous respect for the Supreme Court. Look, 3 of the people are people I appointed.
Right.
And I have great respect for the Supreme Court. And I would expect that the Attorney General will be doing the right thing.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment.
Dog, you're the president. You literally put your hand on the Bible when you pledge an oath that you will uphold the Constitution. That's it. What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. I don't know about due process. Actually, he didn't. Okay, wait, there wasn't a Bible? Oh, he's the Antichrist, bro. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter that he didn't. He still took an oath of office. Okay? Oh my God. God, they get away with so much, dude. That type of shit is like things that Republicans would basically hallucinate the Antichrist is returning if it was like a Democrat that did something similar.
First Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process.
Oh, this is a joke. I know it's a joke, but it doesn't matter. Like, you're not supposed to admit that it's a joke. What do you mean? The entire, like, it's symbolic, but the whole point is like you're supposed to protect the Constitution. Due process is in it. It's a pretty important part of it, actually. Yeah, Joe Biden took the oath of office. Donald Trump swore on 2 Bibles for his first inauguration, one given to his mother when he was a child, and the Lincoln Bible. These 2 Bibles were present at Trump's side during his second inauguration, but he did not place his hand on them. Oh my God. Why are you applying such a high standard to him? Why can't you account for his age? Yeah, you're right, dude. He's just a little guy. He's just old, man. He don't know what he's saying. It's fine. Who cares about due process? Fuck it. YOLO. She looks so disgusted. Oh my God, the Bibles are right there. He's not even holding it. First atheist president.
Process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again.
Okay, I take it back. I said she was doing a good job, but in this situation, you have to switch gears because you're not talking to a normal president. You're not talking to a normal person in general. You have to switch gears and explain to him the importance of due process. When he says, I don't know, you have to literally turn around and be like, okay, if there's no more due process, then anyone and everyone can be falsely deported. That's the problem. It's you can't have ICE agents be judge, jury, and executioner. That cannot happen. That is the reason for why due process exists. You are a Republican. You have talked about witch hunts. You have talked about being falsely smeared. The reality of the matter is you got due process. And if it wasn't for due process, if you hadn't gotten due process, you could have potentially been locked away permanently. Don't you feel like this is the good reason as to why there is a concept such as due process? Like, you have to lower your argument for some when your opponent demonstrates that they do not care about the normalcy or like the normal function of institutions. You have to move beyond just simply pointing to those institutions and saying like, well, don't you think we should preserve them? Even if it's an institution as important as like the Constitution or the Supreme Court, it doesn't matter. You have to demonstrate why the violation of due process, like the removal of due process, is bad. You have to explain it to him, and not just explain it to him, but his own fan base that is going to be tuning into this frequency also will be able to understand why this is scary. Of course, Trump could then deploy the excellent debate strategy of saying, this is boring. Don't you want to make content? And maybe start making fun of her mannerisms, and even mannerisms that she doesn't even have. This is unwatchable. You are ruining the content. This is why your ratings are low. Boring. What do you have to say to, I know you're at CNBC, but what do you have to say about ABC calling me a coward? What do you have to say to that? Mr. President, I'm not. I work for NBC News, not ABC. Well, you can make a value judgment, right? Make a value judgment about ABC's commentary now. Do it. Do it now. Do it now. You're making it boring.
I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right?
You sleep in a race car bed. I sleep with my wife in my big bed. With my wife, Melania. That's right. It's true.
Now, in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United
States? I don't know you.
I don't think he understands this is the major point of contention. We can't have a trial for every single person. That would be millions of trials. I don't think the Supreme Court will stand for that. I can't believe it, because you know what? If they do, we're not going to have a country. No, like this is the dumbest argument against something that is supremely important to the Constitution, which is it's too hard. Like thousands and basically 1,000 years, almost 1,000 years of like liberal concepts. Okay. 1,000 years of like liberal philosophy versus one guy saying it's too difficult. Like, bro, they had courts and some semblance of due process when there were kings. Like, what are we talking about? Like, there was literally they had courts during kings. What do you mean? It's too difficult. It's too difficult. We can't do it. We can't do it. The UK and Sweden still have a king? Okay, you know what I mean. I'm talking like straight monarchy era, okay? Courts are bad content. I never liked it. We must do away with the courts. Unless they like me, in which case I will allow it. I will allow it.
We're trying to get very good ones. I mean, we need judges that are not going to be demanding trials for every single illegal immigrant. We have millions of people that have come in here illegally. And we can't have a trial for every single person. That would be millions of trials. The people elected me in a landslide with every single, we won every swing state, we won everything there is to win by big numbers. Not only swing state, we won the popular vote by millions of votes. They elected me, this was the #1 issue. And now we have judges radicalized and they're crazy. Because they want us to have, if you believe this, they want us to have a trial for every person that came in illegally into our country. So they come.
Yeah, I can believe it. What are you saying? That is how it's been done. What do you mean? Can you believe it? They want every person that I think is bad to be going through the court system. Like, what the are you saying? Yes, dude, that's the law. What are you talking about? Of course, that is supposed to be the way things work. You can't just turn around and be like, look at how stupid these rules are. Can you believe it? He doesn't even acknowledge that that is a rule, by the way. He just says it's so crazy.
Come into our country illegally, and then we're supposed to take weeks, I guess, and months to have a trial on every criminal, and we have murderers all over the country. I don't think the Supreme Court will stand for that. I can't believe it. Because you know what? If they do, we're not going to have a country.
Like, that determination of whether or not someone is in here illegally and must be deportable is profoundly important so that citizens aren't getting deported, even by his own standards. But no one has seemingly brought this up to him. Like, what the do you mean it's too difficult? The whole point is you don't know if someone is actually even an undocumented citizen. Like, what are we talking about?
You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
Okay. At least 2 Americans have been mistakenly detained and released by your administration, immigration authorities. Mr. President, should lawful residents of this country start carrying paperwork with them when they leave their homes?
I don't think that'll be necessary, but what you're not saying is that many people have been killed, maimed, badly hurt by illegal immigrants that came over that are from prisons and from jails and from mental institutions, and they're hurting our people. And if we don't get them out, we're not going to have a country for long. We need honest media, and we need walls. We need to have borders. And by the way, I built a lot of walls, and if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be able to have those. You know, we would not be able to have the kind of numbers if I wasn't successful in building hundreds of miles of wall.
Very quickly, sir, the last time you and I spoke in December, you said that you would consider working on getting Dreamers legal status. Dreamers, of course, those who were brought here illegally as children. Where do those efforts stand? Is that a priority for you?
Well, it's not a priority for the Democrats because every time we talk about it, they don't want to talk about it because I guess they like it as a political issue, but they're not good at political issues because they still want to have men playing women's sports.
Well, Republicans do control Congress right now, Mr. President.
But the Democrats
Are you
don't.
going to make Dreamers a priority?
Well, you'd need for that, you would need to have support from Democrats, and we have no support from the Democrats.
Have you had any discussions about Dreamers?
Yeah, we've had discussions. We would do something. I'd love to put in beautiful immigration for everybody. But the Democrats don't want to approve anything. All they want to do is knock out a tax bill. We're trying to get approved right now, the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. And if it doesn't get approved, it's a 68% tax increase. And that's what the Democrats want. They want a 68% tax increase.
I want to mention something here, but just like with Jerome Powell, he's like, who could be the idiot that did this? With the tax increase that's coming for Americans, that is also something he did because he did not think that he would lose the election. So he set it up to make it whoever was supposed to be the president after his 2 terms and their problem. Because the way he cut the tax proposal, I mean, it ended up working for him. But the way he cut the previous tax cuts, the legislation that they started implementing in 2017, I believe, was that the way he cut it was that all of the tax brackets under the top marginal tax rate, the top marginal tax bracket, would actually inevitably have tax increases back to the previous level before 2017. Now he wants to make those tax cuts for the working class permanent. The only tax cuts that were made permanent in the 2017 legislation was, and this might come as a surprise to many of you, the top marginal tax bracket and corporate taxes. That's not true. Tax breaks, sunsets, 2025, all of them, just not just under top taxes. No, you're wrong. What? I'm pretty sure you're wrong. No, he made the top marginal tax bracket. I don't think they all sunset. No, the rich ones are permanent. The top marginal tax bracket and the corporate tax cuts were permanent. Make America Great Again. I want to go back to the 50s. They all sunset us on. That's why they're panicking. No, they aren't permanent. That's why they're doing accounting tricks to keep them. Hold on. I think you guys are getting lost in the weeds. I thought the top marginal tax rate and the corporate tax rate was made permanent. The corporate tax cut that was implemented is a permanent tax cut. And from what I recall, how the 2026 tax brackets would change if the TCJA expires. Oh shit. Wait, what the I am wrong. Damn. Holy. The only one that's permanent is the corporate tax rate? I know that one is permanent. But I thought the top marginal tax rate would also stay at 37%. I was wrong. And not only was I wrong, I've been wrong for quite a while. That's crazy that the chatter who corrected me is also one of the most insane chatters that I have. Am I having a Berenstein Bears moment or some shit? Why did I think this for the longest goddamn time? I feel terrible right now. I feel like my brain is doo-doo. Time to grift right wing? Yeah. Mandela effect, bro. Gotta watch How to Win John Wilson. We got shifted into a different timeline where MAGA communist Donald Trump is in charge. I don't think you've been wrong for a long time. I remember you explaining these at the time, and my understanding was that they're just the corporate taxes stay low. No, I definitely thought the top marginal tax rate. This I thought was permanent, and then these were slated to sunset. But I think it's because of this that I thought that it wasn't the top tax bracket, but it was the one under that stays the same, I guess. So in my mind, I always thought it was the top tax bracket, maybe. But the corporate tax bracket is the same. And so is, I guess, not the second time. You don't know what you're saying? What do you mean? What was the first time? I don't know what I'm saying. Now you have to double down and shift right? Okay, we're good. I'm doubling down. Ethan podcast, if I recall correctly. What do you mean? The ones that are definitely permanent is the corporate tax rate. Anyway, let's continue.
It's rather incredible.
And I do want to talk to you about your legislation, but let's talk about DOJ very quickly. DOJ has fired and then rehired thousands of federal workers, including FAA employees in charge of aviation safety, specialists working on nuclear weapon safety. What do you say to those who believe Elon Musk's chainsaw approach has jeopardized the safety and security of Americans?
Well, he found $160 billion worth of fraud, waste, and abuse. I mean, I think he's done an amazing job. I think his people have done an incredible job. They're brilliant people. They know the computer. I actually asked him, what's their big trait? He said they're unbelievable at computers. In other words, you can't fake them out because these people are, in many cases, crooks. But it was fraud, waste, and abuse. They found, your question should be asked a different way. Were certain things found? Yes. How much? $160 billion. Think of what $160 billion is. He found $160.
He said he'd find $2 trillion.
Well, we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet.
Do you think the work continues even though he's leaving?
Course.
He said
sure. He's leaving behind some very brilliant people. They were on television last night. They're super high IQ people. I like high IQ people. The Democrats don't have many of them.
Let me ask you about some news that broke. You are threatening to rescind Harvard's tax-exempt status.
Yeah.
And yet directing the IRS to investigate and rescind a university's tax-exempt status is contrary to what's in the federal law. The law says you can't do this. Do you think you're following the law?
Well, I tell you, I'm going to just follow what the lawyers say. They say that we're allowed to do that, and I'm all for it. But everything I say is subject to the laws being 100% adhered to.
Are you willing to take this to court if it becomes a court fight? You're going to take it that far?
We've won a lot of cases.
All right, let's talk about some of the other actions you've taken over the past 100 days. Last month, you directed your Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to review 2 people who you perceived to be your political adversaries. And yet you told me in December...
Bro, what's so funny about it is, like, when he says we won a lot of court cases, he actually hasn't. But I guess his advisors keep telling him that decisions that come down from the Supreme Court, for example, like the Kilmar-Abrego-Garcia return, like, he literally just listens to his lawyers, and his lawyers are like, yes, Mr. President, it was actually unanimous, 9-0 in your favor. Like, that's what Stephen Miller said. And Trump was like, come on, Stephen, you're so beautiful. Come on, Stephen, tell him what you told me about the Supreme Court decision. And it's crazy that, like, he just lied on national television. That is not what the Supreme Court's decision is. It's the exact opposite. It is, the more I see of Trump on the main stage, the more I realize he is also Brandonized and is being used like a mecha, like a flesh puppet by the likes of, like, Stephen Miller and some of the most reactionary Nazis. Straight up.
Remember that you would not direct the Justice Department to investigate your political foes. What changed?
Well, no, I just look at people, and I'm not directing anybody. They looked at these 2 people. They might have known it, or they might have heard it from 2 years ago. One person said, he knew me so well. He was, I think, on CNN or MSDNC, but they're both failing networks. You're happy to know, even though one of them, I guess, is related to you in one form or another, although they're trying to cut him loose as fast as possible. But it was well known that this one person, it was almost like he was my brother. I don't even know who he is. Maybe he was there. Maybe he was in the Oval Office a few times as a surrogate for, you know, somebody in some form of government, along with 25 other people that sat in the back of the room or stood in the back of a room. I have no idea who this guy is. And he's out there. And then he did a book called Anonymous. I think that's really subversion. I think it's spying. It's something really bad.
But you passed an executive order calling for your Attorney General
he's been
to
looked
investigate
at
that
for a long time. And the other one.
Oh my God. That's so insane. He's trying to say that this dude was doing espionage for writing about his experience of being in the room as like a low-level staffer or whatever.
And said that the election was so wonderful. It was well, it turned out it wasn't a wonderful election. It was a corrupt election.
Well, let me ask it this way, sir, because when we talked in December, I asked you, what is your message to people who didn't vote for you? Let me remind you of what you said. You said, I love you, and we're going to all work together. How does pursuing your political foes help to unify the country? Did I really say I love you? You really did. That's a direct quote.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, but I'd like to see.
I promise I'll show it to you. I'll show you the tape.
Look.
How does that help to unify the country?
I want to treat people fairly, whether they voted for me or not.
This is like Ethan Klein being like, 110? You mean to tell me I've sent 110 Instagram stories? Well, that can't be true. Do you mean since 2023? Oh no. You're telling me it's since 2021, January 31st, 2021. I don't believe you. I don't believe it.
I want to have a unified country. It's very hard because the media is so fake, including, like even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever, but you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible. You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
No, but look, I'm just curious.
And I'm fine for responding to you. I don't think you're very difficult at all to respond to be honest with you. But you know what? You should ask some positive things like, sir, it's amazing what you've done with gasoline. Because you know what? Gasoline's big business. A stroller is not big business.
To this question, Mr. President, you said you wanted to unify the country. Does going after political foes undercut that goal?
No, not at all. No, we want honest people.
Okay.
I think you have to do that. We want honest people in this country.
Let me ask you big picture. People who have lived in countries like the Philippines, Hungary, Russia, they look at some of your actions going after civil service, going after universities, law firms, the media. They say it's out of an authoritarian playbook. What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote. I won all 7 swing states by a lot.
Great answer, man. Great answer, dude. Incredible answer. What do I say to this, What do you say? You meant January 31st, 2025? No. What? He's like, what you're doing is really authoritarian. He's like, no, I got the popular mandate. They want me to be this way.
A lot of people were surprised. I said, I think you could win 4, maybe 5. No, I won all 7, and I won by a lot. And I won, actually, I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about, people say this, well, they had their chance at the election and they lost big. So you should ask the question differently. You should say, what about the people that want to be in this country? What about the people that love this country?
But what do you say? I'm asking it on behalf of those people, to give you a chance to respond to them. What do you say to those people, sir?
Those people are going to be very happy. They're going to have to see some results. And I think we had a great 100 days. There are a lot of people that say it was unprecedented. It was an absolutely unprecedented 100 days. And
why does he? That's, by the way, as a longtime Trump stan, because I'm apolitical, I noticed that he started doing this new thing where he always goes, why don't you ask me the question in a different way? That's new. That's a new meta. And I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know who taught him that. I don't know why he says that. But he always says that now. When he doesn't like a question, he goes, why don't you ask nicely? Why don't you ask me nicely? Why do you ask such mean questions? He got used to press pool. He's used to the new White House press pool questions. No, I know, but I'm saying, like, I just don't know where that, like, who taught him that?
I hope that they're going to be right.
Do you see dissent as an essential part of democracy?
It's a part of democracy. It is. You're
is
always
it
going
an
to have
important
dissent.
part of democracy?
Yeah, you're always going to have, Kristen, you're always going to have dissent. There's nothing you're going to do about that. Am I going to get 100% unified? It would be a strange place. I can't even imagine it where 100%. Look, you have people that are good people. Mm-hmm. They're very smart people. And they honestly believe we should have open borders and the entire world should be allowed to pour into our country. I think it's a 95-5 issue, but they believe it. They're not even bad people. Some of them are bad. You have people that honestly believe that men should be allowed to play in women's sports. Some of these people I don't know any. I haven't been able to find any, but they exist. They say it's an 80-20 issue. I don't believe that. I think it's a 97-3 issue.
Do you think people should have the right to criticize you without fear of reprisal?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. That I do.
And how do you square that?
And I think that happens.
How do you square that with the fact that you have passed these executive orders asking the Attorney General to look into some of the people who've criticized you, who've been harshest against you?
I have been investigated more than any person in the history of the United States of America. I've been investigated more than the late, great, as I say at my rallies, Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone was a nasty man. He was the highest level gangster. And I have been investigated more than Al Capone, more than anybody. These people are evil people, and I won. And I'll tell you what, all I want to happen is for the Department of Justice and the FBI. Pam is great and Cash is great. I think they're two great people, but they're their own people. They want to do a fantastic job. And all I want to do and all I want to ask for is that they be allowed to do their job. I'm not telling them to do anything, and I believe I have the right to do it. I'm, in theory, the top law enforcement officer as the president. We went over this once before, and it turned out I was right. But I'm not looking to use that. We have two great people, and we have many, many incredible people under them, and I just want them to do their job and do it well.
Let me ask you about something I don't think you've been asked much about, which is you've branded your own cryptocurrency. The coin's values actually surged recently after you announced that top holders would be invited to have dinner.
I don't even know that. What did it surge to?
What did it surge to?
Yeah, what's it worth? You might as well tell me, because I have no idea.
Well, it surged. It surged. I will find it. Hold on one second. 5.2 or 58%. So 58%.
To what number?
That's not bad. 14.32.
What? Billion?
No, dollars per cryptocurrency.
$billion dollars?
No.
What's the number? I mean, what is the amount?
The meme coin's value hit a peak of 75.35 on January 19th.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
And that's before your inauguration, and then it surged.
Look, I'm in favor of crypto.
Let me just ask you, what do you say to those who argue that when they hear that, they worry you're profiting from the presidency?
I'm not profiting from anything. All I'm doing is, I started this long before the election. I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. Mm-hmm. And it's new. Mm-hmm. It's very popular. Mm-hmm. It's very hot. If you look at the market, when the market went down, that stayed much stronger than other aspects of the market. But I want crypto because a lot of people, millions of people want it. I don't know if you know that Biden went after it violently, and then before the election, he changed his tune entirely. His head of the SEC, everybody changed their tune. You know why? Because there were hundreds of millions of people that are...
There ain't no way this dumb is going to send me to a camp. He is. All of us. In some ways, it makes it so much worse that it's not even like a competent or smart strategist that is going to be sending all of us to concentration camps. Forget a level 40 orc wizard in WoW. That shit is for LGBTs. You've moved on to slaying real-life monsters and becoming the politics goat. You are Jon Snow in real life. You have my axe, Asmongold. Brace, there's no wizard in WoW. It's mage, arcane frost or fire, or warlock, affliction, demonology, or destruction. And he just responds with LGBT. Yeah, I'm done. It's so weird. It's so weird seeing Brace interact with Asmongold. What is the world that we've... Hold on. I just finished a talk between you and Ethan. I just wanted to say the small fact that I'm Iraqi, and I know this firsthand. Jews in Iraq lived normally with all Iraqi religions and races until Nakba, and then Saddam, later on, you mean, decided to kick them out, and not a single person accepted that they were literally our friends and family. We don't hate them whatsoever. Our fight is against Israel's genocide, not with Jews. I mean, good luck. Uh-huh. I have food over here still. Hold on. Let me get that out of the way, too. Yeah. That's fine. You can keep that. We just have to take some photos, chat. I don't know why, but they're press photos. Headshots? Not headshots, action shots. All right.
Participating in crypto, and they wanted to get their votes.
So
but
you're not profiting off of the cryptocurrency
I haven't
business at
even
all?
looked.
Has your
But
family?
I'll tell you what, look, if I own stock in something and I do a good job, and the
What about back shots? No, action shots, not back shots. The is wrong with you?
stock market goes up, I guess I'm profiting. But who really profits is somebody like Nancy Pelosi, who uses inside information. She worked for $175,000.
Wait, he's saying so he's profiting exactly like Nancy Pelosi, but it's bad because Nancy Pelosi did it. But it's good when he does it. Like, that's the argument here. The argument here is, you know, who's really profiting? Nancy Pelosi, just like me. But it's bad when she does it. Hold on here. I'll put the other camera on so you're not in the shot. Oh, Jesus. Okay, never mind. All right, back to the. All right.
A year, and that's at the high end. And she's worth $150, $200 million.
Who are you paying for a puff piece this time? No, it's, dude, you want to know how no budget ass we are over here? I don't have a, no, you're laughing, but I'm saying, like, I don't have enough, I guess, press photos for some of the articles that have been written. So they're asking for, like, press shots that we take ourselves. Yeah, well, you are a professional. That's true. Yeah. Put the video in the bag.
You ought to look at Nancy Pelosi, and you ought to look at some of these politicians that are stone cold crooks. I was very wealthy when I came in. Being president, I probably cost me money if you really look. In fact, I do something that no other president has done. They think maybe George Washington has done. I contribute my entire salary to the government, back to the government.
So will you contribute anything you earn from crypto back to the government? If that happens?
I never thought of that. I mean, should I contribute all of my real estate that I've owned?
Oh, that was a good question. That was actually a good question. And instantly he's like, no, that's a no.
For many years, if it goes up a little bit because I'm president and doing a good job, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I've done something that surprisingly, they say nobody else has done, no other president has done. And it's a substantial salary. It's like $500,000 a year or $550,000 a year.
Change your hairstyle for a bit of variety in the photos. Yeah, same outfit, but a different hairstyle will truly create that variety necessary for these press shots.
4 years, a couple of $1 million. I gave it to the government last time. I never got a story saying I gave it. Nobody cared if I gave it. I guarantee if I didn't give it, there'd be a big story. But no other president, they say, with the possible exception of George Washington, and they haven't been able to find those records. And we've had wealthy presidents before, but no other president has contributed the salary. And they told me before this that you will probably be asking me whether or not I'm going to contribute my salary again, but you haven't asked that.
Are you going to?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I appreciate we just made news there. Let's talk about foreign policy, sir.
Oh, you've made news in a lot of different parts of this conversation, I will say. Like when he said, I don't know about due process. It's too hard. It's too hard.
You just signed a minerals deal with Ukraine. It's a sign, it seems, that the United States is invested in Ukraine's future. The Secretary of State told me this is a very critical week. Are you any closer to reaching a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia?
I hope so.
How would you characterize
I do believe we're closer with one party and maybe not as close with the other, but we'll have to see. I'd like to not say which one we're closer to, but we did do a deal for the American people that was good. We were able to get rare earth. You know, the Europeans are getting paid back. They have a loan. We didn't. Biden just gave them $350 billion. He has no idea where the money is, what happened. And at least we'll, in one form or another, get our, I don't feel so foolish And remember this is Biden's war. This was a war that was never going to happen if I were president. This is a horrible, horrible war. And I get to see shots of soldiers through, satellite that are so terrible. 5,000 soldiers are being, look, 5,000 soldiers a week on average are dying. Okay. They're not American soldiers, but I want to solve the problem. They're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers. And if I can save 5,000 souls, I just love doing it.
How long do you give both?
That's why he's doing it in Gaza. My beautiful president. Oh, sorry. He doesn't give a shit about that. He wants to ethnically cleanse the entirety of the Gaza Strip. So,
both countries before you're going to walk away.
Well, there'll be a time when I will say, okay, keep going, keep being stupid.
When does that come? Are you close to it?
Sometimes I get close to it and then positive things happen. Okay. So I hope it gets done.
Chatter's asking, did you wish March a happy Cinco de Mayo or being racist? Okay.
Your close ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, has a sanctions bill against Russia. If you get to that point, Mr. President, where you're prepared to walk away, will you sign that sanctions bill?
Well, it depends on whether or not Russia is behaving toward coming to a peace. We want a peace deal. We want Russia and Ukraine to agree to a deal. Mm-hmm. We think we're fairly close, and we're going to save a lot of people from being killed. We save a lot of money, too, because we're spending money like, Europe is spending a third of the money that we're spending. And it's more important for Europe than it is for us. Biden had no control. He just sent money over there willy-nilly. Nobody had any idea what was happening, why they were doing it, why they were sending it. And it was massive amounts of money.
So you think you're close to a deal? What will Russia have to give up? Because Ukraine, there's been discussions they will have to give up some of the land.
Russia will have to give up all of Ukraine. Because that's what they want.
All of Ukraine, meaning they wouldn't keep any of the land that they've claimed?
Russia would have to give up all of Ukraine. Because what Russia wants is all of Ukraine. And if I didn't get involved, they would be fighting right now for all of Ukraine. Russia doesn't want the strip that they have now. Russia wants all of Ukraine. And if it weren't me, they would keep going. Do you know that the European Union leaders have asked me to call Putin so many times because he doesn't return their phone call?
You posted on social media he might be tapping you along.
Might be.
Did you misread him?
But you might be tapping me along, too, when you tell me how nice an interview this is going to be. So, I'm used to being tapped along.
Did you in any way misread Vladimir Putin?
Did I what?
Misread him, now that you're saying that.
Well, I'll tell you about that in a month from now or 2 weeks from now. I have no idea. I can tell you this. His ambition was stopped to a large extent when he saw that it was me that was now leading the charge, because he wasn't dealing with anybody in Europe. He wasn't calling him back. Do you know that I asked him, I said, did Biden ever call you in 3 years? Did Biden ever call? He said he never called. Do you know Biden didn't call him one time? And all these thousands of soldiers, hundreds, millions of...
Bro, that's crazy. Putin loves me. He hated Biden. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. You don't understand it. Believe it. Vladimir, no. When I said that, he trust me, he heard me. He said, Mr. President, I will no longer do death and destruction.
Of soldiers are dying, and people, not only soldiers, people dying in the cities and the towns, and the whole heritage of that country is being blown apart. I mean, the country's heritage is being blown apart. You know, the steeples, those beautiful spires that you see, the most beautiful in the world? Yeah. Almost 95% of them are laying in smithereens, all broken up and so sad, laying all over the ground because they were shot. It's really a bad situation. And he didn't get one phone call from Biden. The war would have never started. And by the way, for 4 years, it didn't start. I was there for 4 years. It was the apple of his eye. This was the apple of Putin's eye. There was no chance he would have gone in.
What's the red line for you? At what point do you say, that's it, we're walking away?
Well, you'll know. I mean, there'll be a time when I may say that. And if I do,
not there
may be something I can't, maybe...
Twitch streamer Dan Saltman. Dexternox, he's back. Austin Ox is back. Twitch streamer Dan Saltman posts screenshot of Hasanabi stream thumbnail showing anti-Semitic bar sign to target Twitch advertisers. When shown the clip is of Hassan reporting on it as anti-Semitism, he tweeted, "Context matters, guys," and blocked the account sharing the clip. Ha ha ha, Hassan's commie dick sucks are mad. Context matters, guys. Live by the context swastika sword, die by the context swastika sword. What doesn't make any sense in this process is like, yeah, the swastika sword was also not a swastika sword, which Ethan also recognized. What the f do you mean? So that was also out of context, and this is, you're just continuing to be out of context. Like what? This is, for the record, it'll never not be crazy to me that this dude is 60 years old, by the way. Like, please, man, please focus on something else for your life. This is insane. If you're wondering, what do you do in this situation? What do I even do in this situation? We getting a community note on Diddy Saltzman insane tweet? Just wait him out at this point? Yeah, just like real anti-Semitism looks like. This is it. Okay? And ironically enough, yeah, the staff brought it out, and the staff wrote it. Like, the fact that there were people that literally okayed this, like you wrote it on a napkin and you said, "This is what I want on my sign." And then someone went and took the letters FUCK, THE, JEW, and S and planted them, okay, on that sign. And then numerous people saw it in the process and were like, "Here, let's get these bottle service girls to bring it out." And at no point did anybody go, "What the are you guys doing? Kick these losers out of the bar immediately. We are not putting out a sign like this." Like, I know the dipshits that ordered it are probably drunk, but I don't think the manager is on. Like, what a crazy thing that it's so transparently false, right? It is so transparently a falsehood, and yet nobody cares. I don't understand it. Like, he was tweeting about how much damage they can do now with E-fans on their side. They were always on his side. What do you mean? When have they not been on his side? Like, if the damage hasn't been done thus far, it's not going to be, this is not like a new meta for them. You know? It's just so stupid. The thing that actually shocks me is how much dumber the discourse has gotten. Like, there was at least some interest from people on opposing teams in the past to be like, "Is this true?" You know what I mean? Like, people would, at the very least, if I were to do this about someone, I'm certain that people in my community would go along with it. If I were to just, like, you know, lie, right? If I were to lie about someone and be like, "Oh, this person did this or this person did that," like, yeah, there would definitely be a lot of people that would go along with it for sure. But I'm certain that there would be a decent number of people, even in this chat, that would go, "Hold on, I don't think that's the case." As a matter of fact, they do it all the time. There are people in this chat that will come in and do it when I'm saying something correct, and people are still skeptical over it. I have some of the biggest semantics perverts in the game. Yeah, it just happened today with the corporate tax, not the corporate tax rate, but the tax cuts being sunset. So I can't comprehend how other people, like other communities, are just actively like, "Yeah, I don't really care that it's wrong. I just hate this guy." Every single person who hit like on Diddy Man's tweet did so knowing it's wrong. They're living in a yes-anding acting troupe. I just don't understand what that does. Like, what does that do? Because it's not working. You're just basically in this echo chamber where you're imagining things about me that are demonstrably false with the hopes that, like, no one from that side crosses the boundary and comes in here. Is that what it is? Because there are plenty of people who see this shit and go, "Wait a minute, is this correct? Let me go check this out." You know what I mean? There are always still people that will eventually go, "I'm going to go see for myself." And then those people are going to be like, "Okay, well, I guess I was lied to pretty actively by this cult." Like, there are people in here right now that most likely used to be either fans or were in the periphery, and they saw this kind of shit. They saw this kind of hate farming and were like, "I'm going to go and see if this is real or not." And when they unironically come in here, they go, okay, this was completely incorrect. My bad. They become a part of this community. So you're literally creating additional fans for me. That's it. You underestimate how dumb people are. They believe just based on the tweet. I know. But for every like 100 to 1,000 person, for every 1,000th person, let's say, there's a person that's going to go, I want to figure out if this is real or not. I was looking back on DMs with one of my cousins from 2021 who replied to a story I posted about you saying Hassan is anti-Semitic. If you knew you were Jewish, he wouldn't be so kind. That's so funny. All the way back in 2021. That was me with you owning a mansion discourse. Yeah. You are getting the tweet wrong. I think they just like the hater coming from it. Read my last message. See, this person is very clearly still doing that. What I was talking about with respect to, I have semantics perverts in my chat that will try to come after my argument in a critical fashion, even when they're in the wrong. I think he's talking about the fact that Twitch used this as a thumbnail, which is why they advertise on Twitch. So he's not complaining about Twitch, not you. Dude, what are you talking about? No, the implication there is that I am a vicious, rabid anti-Semite, and that's why I'm looking at that. That's what he's implying. What are you, crazy? I think if you told us a lot like Ethan is faking his ticks, then double, triple, quadruple down, we would 100% call you out on that bullshit. Yeah, 100%. The way that these guys operate is also like, I would say that, okay? I would just say this vicious lie, okay? This really up and ableist lie that Ethan is like faking his ticks. And then I would find that one clip where he's talking about how he played up his ticks in order to not serve in the Israeli military, to say, see, I proved it. And then I would just go along. I would clip that out of context and I would just keep saying it over and over and over again. If I were to do that, my community would be like, what the are you saying? What are you even doing? Why are you talking about this person? Why are you lying about this person? I would lose half my audience overnight. You know what I mean? Except on the other side of the discourse, virtually everything they say is a lie, and they just like keep doing a barrage of, this is
little weasel rat. I mean, it's okay because I'm doing the same thing. See, this is what you guys don't get. This is what you don't get. You don't play the game. You don't play it strong enough.
Dan Stalkman, he's like admitting to taking out of context clips and just lying over and over again for defamatory purposes.
You're over here like, Dan, do not bring up that he went to a brothel. Yes, it was raided, but in the end, they didn't find enough crimes to shut them down. He has no issues clip chipping me, okay? He's fine doing it. Why the fuck would I not do it in return, okay? He wants to like do out of context clips at me. You know what? That's
What's really funny about this statement is it's also a lie, because in order for me to find out of context clips of him, I would have to know anything about him. Okay? I would have to like know what the context is and then be able to cleverly clip it out of context. I don't know anything about this man. I just know he's a 60-year-old pervert who's lost his goddamn mind and like has made it his life's mission to actively stalk me. I don't give a shit. I don't know who the this loser is. And most people in this community don't know who the this loser is either. This is Destiny's podcast co-host, Orbiter, who spends every waking moment actively trying to get me deplatformed. That's his whole live's mission. Is to create some kind of like plausible deniability for Destiny as he uses the Diddy G community to try and actively deplatform me. My biggest fan.
420 blaze it. Let's go. YOLO. Do it.
This is the guy that Ethan openly admitted to collaborating with, who has also openly admitted, this guy has openly admitted to working alongside the ADL, for the record.
Because you know what? There's not that many clips of me that you can take out of context. There's a few, but
there's so much. The funniest part about this also is that he's so horny to try to find something that he literally burned the reputation of his privacy company by trying to get a hit tweet out, scouring the interweb for an internet archive of like Diddy tweet that I made in like 2012 that I don't even remember making, don't even remember deleting really. And he used that to be like, yeah, he used our service. He used our service to delete that. And it's like, brother, the most offensive part of this process is that you lied about me using your service. It was so stupid. It's his own privacy application that he burned the reputation of to make it seem like they actively actively blackmailed their clients, all at the behest of Israel too, which makes it even funnier, and defending Israel's interests. Amazing. Didn't he say his life's goal was deplatforming you and ruining your life? I think, was it Ethan who said that? I mean, they probably both have said that at some point. Yeah. Has Tectone always hated you? Why did he all of a sudden start attacking you? I mean, I don't care, dude. It's like, if you are a villain online, if you are a repulsive little freak online, there is going to come a day where you're like, Hassan, I hate him. I take that in stride. I think that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Oh no, a person who is credibly accused of rape is saying that I'm a bad guy. What will I do? Okay. What's really funny about that one is that apparently, well, not so funny, it was, I guess, ironic deeply, is that apparently Tectone, as soon as he came after me and talked about his father's like military record or whatever, here it is. I'm going to show you that really quickly. The internet found out that dad did the same shit that he did. Where is it? Hold up. Let me find the original tweet just to help you understand what's going on here real quick. He said, I am genuinely considering full swapping to YouTube if this terrorist propaganda isn't punished harshly and immediately on Twitch. My father, my brothers, and our soldiers did not bleed, sacrifice, and die for this bullshit to be allowed and promoted on Twitch. This needs to change immediately. Now, there's much wrong with this because I thought the lie that was told to America is that, you know, soldiers are literally dying to protect the First Amendment, which would fall under a defense of, you know, what I'm saying, and even beyond that, right? But it turns out, because and it's also additionally funny because everyone hates this repulsive little monster, this goddamn ogre, which is precisely why I said, oh no, what will anyone do if the bald pervert leaves the Twitch platform for good? Okay. Turns out Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, folks. This is who he was talking about, Tectone. Apparently, this is his dad.
Today, I would like to tell the story of one of the 8% that were prosecuted. The story of Colonel Michael Robertson, who commanded Fort Bliss's 31st Combat Support Hospital at Camp Dwyer, a military base and airfield in the Helmand River Valley in Afghanistan. Last week, Colonel Robertson was convicted by a military judge of 14 charges, including having pornography on his government computer, sexually harassing 3 women, and assaulting 5 women. 8 women that served under his command testified at great cost to their careers and their privacy. Colonel Robertson routinely touched them without permission.
Someone found a photo of him and his father together. All right, pal. I don't think you get to reveal that you let your entire family sign up and went, have fun, suckers. I'm going to become a Me Too'd Genshin streamer and get self-righteous about it, as if you couldn't play freemium games and get accused of heinous acts in the service. His dad got booted from the army for sexually assaulting other soldiers. I just saw the article. We need to trade the family to a country. What the I don't condone. I condemn what Felix is saying. Christ, listen. Felix, you need to be on Twitch to get these people into crying about you too. I have a bad disposition for doing it consistently. There are 3 streams I really enjoy doing, and I feel like I could do them for 12 hours whenever I'm on. But doing it by myself like 5 days a week would start to chap my ass. I guess it would be nice making enough to buy a MiG though. I'm audio, please say it. No. I think it's pretty crazy. Oh, here's the, I think this was what I saw. Yeah, this is what I saw on the timeline.
The biggest photo you see is of Colonel Michael Robertson. He was convicted of 14 accounts of sexual assault. He only served 90 days in jail and paid a $30,000 fine.
Bro, that is the craziest. I mean, it's not even a milkshake duck style situation, because it's like for a milkshake duck to occur, like, this needs to be a beloved figure and not a bald rapist himself, right? But what was hilarious about this, situation is, like, I didn't know anything about his dad, you know? Literally, where is this reference? You posted, come in with receipts posted, bro. So where did this reference happen? Do you think this person will change their perspective about this guy? Hokai Impact third, got to be the best game. Australia. Yeah, like what? Why would you invite people looking for this information? It's so crazy. Okay, I investigated by myself, and there's a person with the same name, rank, and similar age than Tectone's dad, and he was indeed found guilty of 14 counts of sexual harassment. It definitely wasn't his dad. His dad served in the late 80s, the early 90s. Anything after that, he probably wasn't active and was a reserve. Plus, I know people like Casey, blah, blah, blah. He literally references his dad as Iron Mike, which was also the nickname explicitly referenced in the trial of Michael Robertson. It's pretty obviously his father-in-law. It's not a surprise considering the history of sexual abuse that runs in the family. Like, this man has, I guess, epigenetic memories of rape. He had to do it, you know? He just couldn't. He couldn't stop himself because it's just like, it's a familial obligation over here. He literally says, should we call you Colonel in the podcast? Colonel Michael Robertson, Lamau. In the video, he literally said he served in Vietnam. The same Colonel Michael Robertson in the assault trial who served, guess where? Vietnam, Lem Phao. I think it's Tectone. Your father was a literal terrorist. Asman's father was a Vietnam invader. Both of you don't have the right to call anyone terrorist. Okay, listen, Asman dad is good in my book. Okay, he is a liberal. I don't know if he still is, but I don't know if he's still a fan. But you know, no smearing Asman dad. I can't believe it, dude. What an insane way to learn about new information that I previously was not privy to.
On their breasts, thighs, and buttocks, and encourage them to look at pornography computer. Some testify the harassment occurred daily. Sadly, the military careers of these 8 women who bravely did the right thing are almost assuredly destroyed. A major who filed a claim against Robertson said, quote, I don't know if my career was in jeopardy for doing the right thing.
What is this?
Who in the Corps who supported you is going to trust you in the future, unquote. Despite repeated warnings, Colonel Robertson also emailed pornography to friends and female subordinates. A lieutenant colonel who was the chief nurse under Robertson's command said his command style split the staff and created a toxic environment. What makes the defense's answer to all these actions? That all of these jokes and the touching were attempts to boost morale. How much more outrageous must the excuse become before we do something about it? So what is the punishment for someone in the military convicted of 14 counts of assaulting and harassing his subordinates who was assigned to protect? Is he sent to prison for being a predator?
Bro, his dad is in the congressional record for being a sex pest. That is crazy. Oh my God.
Is he stripped of his standing?
Being a second generation sex pest is wild. I mean, like father, like son, I guess.
In the military.
What the fuck?
Oh, no. Colonel Robertson was ordered to pay a $30,000 fine over 3 months and spent 3 months in prison. Colonel Robertson will retire from the Army when he finishes his sentence. His conviction won't affect his Army retirement.
Everything I know about the way the military normally deals with these issues, I have no fear in saying that the likelihood is that the damage was significantly larger And the very fact that he was even punished means that what he did was probably far worse, because the military usually just lets you get away with it, okay? Especially if you're high-ranking, Vietnam veteran, all this shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. Holy. I mean, you got a congressperson shitting on the fact that the American military did not offer just punishment. When do you plan on enlisting in Hamas or Hezbollah? I noticed that a lot of the little creatures have started crawling in the chat. All of a sudden, what happened? Why are y'all crawling out of the woodwork right now at this very moment? It's like the worst time. It's perhaps the worst time to come in here and chirp. Who is this guy? This guy is the father of this guy who posted, I'm genuinely considering full swap into YouTube if this terrorist propaganda isn't published harshly and immediately on Twitch. My father, my brothers, and our soldiers did not bleed, sacrifice, and die for this bullshit to be allowed and promoted on Twitch. In court-martial testimony Tuesday, women said Robertson allegedly touched them without permission on their breasts and buttocks, encouraged them to look at pictures of scantily clad women on his computer, and made personal sexual comments, the El Paso, Texas Times reported. He brought this up, and then Twitter immediately came in and was like, dude, your dad literally was a award-winning sex pest, a sexual assaulter amongst the ranks, too much of a goddamn threat to the American military. It was a national security concern, it seems, that they had to do something about it. That's crazy. The U.S. military still protects rapists. There have been increasing protests in Okinawa because the U.S. won't stop protecting rapists. I was in a protest in Shibuya last weekend, and there's growing anger. No, I know that. Like a congressionally recognized sexual assaulter. I started Camp Dwyer, but not until 2012. You're right about military punishments for higher ranks. It's class warfare exemplified and disgusting. Yep. Alaikum salam. Apparently they had his dad, Tectone's dad, talking about you. Can't make this shit up.
He doesn't know the context.
What did he say? What did Colonel Iron Mike say?
Are we bad people for thinking this shit's mad funny? Like, I just think this
No, this shit's hilarious.
Fuck Hassan.
Okay, guys. All right, guys. Hey,
Hassan a bitch.
It's been a great stream, boys.
Bro, what the? Bro, why are all my haters like this? What is going on, bro? What the? Yeah! Judge me by my enemies. Holy shit. This is an ironclad law now, okay? Holy Colonel Spider Rapist hates you. Oh no. Oh my God. Dude, do I have I don't know what it is. Do I have this like major anti-rapist vibe or something? I bring a real anti-pedophilia, anti-rape vibe to the party that pedophile rapists really don't like. Pedophiles and rapists. It's crazy. What the?
It's been a great stream, boys.
Major.
Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the stream. Hey, I'll see y'all next.
That's a sick belt buckle though. Like I can still recognize drip. Tectone is a proud patriotic guy that thought World War II was in the 1800s, by the way. Oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, we got to put this guy up on the board too, next to Dr. Piss Inspect. The list keeps growing, dude. It's the sex offender registry. What the? What the? I don't even do nothing. I didn't even know this dude existed on the planet until like earlier today. And he's rocking the Lockheed Martin shirt. Oh, yeah. It's perfect. It's perfect. Oh, even journalists know about his family's weird business now. My father, brothers, and other soldiers fought to be able to censor speech. I don't like is an interesting new twist on how that line usually goes. His father is cashiered out of the military for being a sex criminal towards his subordinates. He fought for that right. Jesus Christ. Do nothing win? Bro, I mean, I'm not doing anything. This account is run by a PR firm hired by Ethan Klein to clean up his image. It pretends to be a Palestinian scholar while posting Medium blogs defending Ethan and attacking his critics, which Ethan frequently then posts onto his Instagram story. Evie Solanas, abolitionist, critical theorist, feminist, daughter of Palestine, defending Ethan Klein of H3 on Israel-Palestine Zionism. Ethan Klein is not a pro-genocide Zionist, liberal or otherwise. The blogs are written by AI with SEO designed to show up high in Google searches for key terms of importance. Ethan, like Ethan Klein Zionist, Ethan Klein sexual assault. For the latter, it used an article falsely accusing Hassan of essay that mentions Ethan about. Wait, what? Hassan Parker, the male feminist who weaponized police against women and shares revenge porn. None of those things happen. This is not at all new for Ethan. I don't know. Is this Bad Empanada? Is this Bad Empanada's account? Because if it is, I'm going to... Yeah, it most likely is. Okay. I take Bad Empanada's drama-related content with a grain of salt. I don't know if his I don't trust his acumen in that regard. But yeah, you can lie about whatever the fuck you want on Medium, I guess. He linked that Medium article yesterday on his story. This piece of shit running defense for Zionist Ethan Klein is LARPing as pro-Palestine. What they actually are is a Diddy G rat who's following Vile Destiny, Sex Pest fans, and Yeet, the mod of the Islamophobic Nazi Zionist troll farm Dazbullah Brigade. That's crazy. So you mean to tell me this person is writing... We've been getting a major influx of people who seem to think that Medium is a respectable institution. You know, there's no... Like, you can... Anyone and everyone can write on there, right? This is our
Hello
YouTube.
Everyone, my name is Evie Solanas. The aim of my content is to promote education in healthier, honest, and fair discourse online. I am an abolitionist, critical theorist, feminist, and published researcher specializing in gender differences and intimate partner violence. I do not abide anyone who promotes violence, harassment, or hatred based on race, gender, nationality, and other immutable characteristics. I have in the past used an avatar and generated voice for some of my content. Recently,
Why is Pinoy Gang coming after me like this? What the I've always shown love to my Swagapinos. What the hell? Swagapinos, rise up. But not like this. Has to be a Fiverr gig. Not Pinoy, look at the name. I mean, the name isn't.
I have decided to attach more of myself to this work as I feel more comfortable. However, I will continue to use the generated voice for less personal content because it helps me produce better quality products. I also have paid editors for YouTube because I don't have time to edit all of the videos I want to make. Anyway, thank you for following.
Published researcher exploring the social world? Wait, what is she published? Hi, condemn what Ethan Klein said in the video, which I think is close from a decade ago, as tasteless and gross. I hope he has learned something since then. I think he has. The couple blog posts I wrote about him on a year ago have nothing to do with that in particular. I'm not Ethan Klein's keeper. I also think Hassan Piker can do better too. What the? Seriously, look at the 2016 levels of 4chan/poll Arab hate in Dazbullah tweets. Those are the same guys taking Aaron Bushnell's video and putting rave music law absolute psychos. No, I know they are. I know. I'm familiar with what those guys are doing. Nothing is not real. I looked into it a while back. Do you see Gokunara's commentary on the debate? No, what did he say? Why are chatters so aware of every single one of these weirdos? Why is this community turning the garbage on? Okay, bro, calm down, all right? Like, I mean, this is like a not very sophisticated, but a very active smearing campaign that Ethan Klein is either willingly or unwillingly participating in. Like, I think that's valid. It's valid to look into shit like this, okay? Like, calm down. Like, there is a limit to a drama, and this in and of itself is like worthwhile. Yeah, this is a straightforwardly, somewhat coordinated, not super sophisticated, but somewhat coordinated smear campaign. I suspect that that person who's on that YouTube page is probably not the real person, though. Someone told me I was in a cult that you shared revenge porn, so I did my research. That's it. Yeah, it's that mysteriously, that accusation, which is a lie, came about after Destiny actually had an active court case on him for, doing this to numerous victims, as a matter of fact, numerous victims from his own community. And then his community somehow turned it around and was like, Hassan, actually, you did this. And what was their evidence for this? It was because I was getting unsolicited nudes while being interviewed by a journalist on, I think, Snapchat or Instagram or some shit like that. And I was like, oops, that's an unsolicited nude that was sent to me. It's always projection. It's always a role reversal where people just try to stretch. They try to stretch the truth in a way that suits their purpose to craft this insane narrative. They see it gets attention, though, and this prolongs it as it make up crazier accusations than what we're doing. What are you going to do? That wouldn't be me. For the record, that would not be me sharing revenge porn. That would be me being victim of sexual harassment. And no, I don't have a Snapchat anymore. But I'm saying that, receiving an unsolicited nude would be victimizing me under normal circumstances. Not that I care, but not the other way around. What? I think she wasn't being a jerk, saying you could do better, Hassan. She might feel that when telling a chatter to suck my dick. You should stress to do so in a non-violent way. Oh, God. Oh, my God. You are literally getting primed by an AI bot, chatter. I like to think that at least 11 months in this community would have caused someone to be a little bit smarter than an AI bot, like someone who is easily duped by an AI bot that wrote a Medium article that is clearly designed to smear me. That's your takeaway from this? It's getting real hard for me to not say, suck my dick. Come on. Yeah, we should call it a blog post to be more accurate. I mean, that is precisely what it is. Non-violently. I'll say it over and over again. Chatter's confused being charitable with being a useful idiot too often. I know. All right, let's keep going.
It's not possible to do. There's tremendous hatred, just so you understand. Kristen, we're talking tremendous hatred between these two men and between, some of the soldiers, frankly.
Fallen fan and new chatter post debate. He said you just mispronounced Avi Schlam's name, proceeds to double down that he's right and you're wrong, then triple down when he proves himself wrong live. Oh, I don't know how. Let's move on, please. Let's get back to the real drama. My GOAT, the president.
Between the generals, they've been fighting hard for 3 years. I think we have a very good chance of doing it.
Very quickly, if you do walk away, would that mean that you would pull military and intelligence?
I don't want to say that now. It's too early to say that. I don't want to get into that argument.
Let's move on to Canada. You have long talked about making Canada the 51st state. There's obviously a new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who you spoke to after his victory. He says that you didn't talk to him in that call about making Canada a 51st state.
No, he called me. He was very nice, and I congratulated him. He had a victory. It's a very close victory. It's there's no majority or anything, so that's going to make things a little bit difficult, I think, for him to run. But he nevertheless had a victory, and he's a very nice man, I think.
Do you plan to talk to him about making Canada a 51st state?
He wants to come and see me. He's going to come this week or next week.
So will you talk to him about making Canada a 51st state, annexing Canada?
I'll always talk about that. You know why?
Because I'm crazy. Because I'm out of my goddamn mind. That's why I always will talk about Canada. Because I'm off my gourd.
We subsidize Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. In fact, we don't want their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't even want their energy. We have more than they do. We don't want their lumber. We have great lumber. All I have to do is free it up from the environmental lunatics. We don't need anything that they have. We're giving them. I asked Mr. Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau, I said, you know, not Prime Minister, Governor. I said, Governor Trudeau, could I ask you one question? Why are we giving you $200 billion? Why are we subsidizing Canada? If Canada was a state, it wouldn't cost us. It would be great. It would be such a great, it would be a cherished state. And if you look at our map, if you look at the geography, I'm a real estate guy at heart. When I look down at that, without that artificial...
Marx Carney, alongside with dear leader Xi Jinping, please save us. Marx Carney, save us. Karl Marx Carney, I didn't know what your game looked like, okay? Just save us. Marx Commie, save us.
Artificial line that was drawn with a ruler many years ago. It was just an artificial line, goes straight across. You don't even realize what a beautiful country it would be. It would be great. But
Marx Carney, we will become a bountiful province. I will start saying, don't you know, randomly. I will start saying, I apologize. I'll even add an A in the end of my conversations. Marx Carney, save us. Save us, Karl Marx Carney. Put America on the Belt and Road. Let's close the belt loop, okay? You got one belt, one road, and it needs to be closed. And guess how we close that one belt and one road? We close it by putting the belt loop directly on the United States of America, a Canadian province. Hey, bud.
I don't think the American public wants me to...
Marx Carney gonna come out and be like, he said he was gonna do the Amerification of Canada, but we just Canada-fied America. I did NATO.
Pay $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. Again, remember this.
Yeah.
We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need...
He's so good at being a National Socialist. Like, he is actually the method. Like, he is doing the Hitlerian method so hard. He doesn't have the ideological acumen or the conviction to follow through on this agenda, even though he is surrounded by people who very clearly do, like Stephen Miller, who is a Nazi through and through. But as far as the rhetoric goes, it's so, like, he says borders are a scar on the face of the earth, like he's Giannis Varoufakis. When talking about the annexation of Canada, he talks about how you don't need these many commodities. Let us rid ourselves of these material possessions and care about what truly matters. You don't need 35 different toys. You can make do with 3 or 4. Enough of long gone are the days where we wanted to constantly seek out abundance. It has taken a major toll on the environment. We must go back. We must return. And then why is he doing that? Oh, because he wants to decouple trade from China, from all of China's trade partners, because he wants to, I guess, nuke China without having too much of a severe repercussion in the process. It's crazy. He has the populism down pat. This man could tomorrow, if he wanted to, I think, bring about Medicare for all to this country. He would never do that because he is a capitalist through and through. But I'm not even kidding when I say he could just come out and be like, every American deserves to be saved. There is no freedom until you have freedom from medical debt. Can you believe it, folks? America's the only country in the developed world that still has the concept of medical debt. How can you claim to be free? How can anyone claim to be free if you have the freedom to what? Choose which healthcare provider you're gonna get shellacked by? That's why I'm abolishing the profit-centered, privatized healthcare structure, an expensive middleman that no one wanted. That's right. And I'm also freeing Luigi Mangione. I'm taking him out of prison, folks. Look at how beautiful he is. He looks like he just came out of central casting, folks. He looks like one of those guys. Italian, beautiful, beautiful Italian eyebrows. I took one look at those eyebrows and I said, Medicare for all. today, Medicare for all tomorrow, and Medicare for all yesterday. He comes out of the gate swinging like that. All the cult turns around. FDR numbers, woke Trump. We will put him in our new movie, Alcatraz with sharks. Oh, my God. My administration wanted to make America healthy again. That's why we brought the beacon of health, RFK Jr. And together, it is our duty to make America truly healthy. And America will never be truly healthy until every American has the opportunity to go to a primary care physician. That's right, folks. Imagine. Just close your eyes and imagine for a second.
Anything. We do very little business with Canada. They do all of their business practically with us.
You and I,
they need us. We don't need them.
You and I talked, and I asked you if you would rule out military force to take Greenland, and you said no, you don't rule out anything. Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point. It could happen. Something could happen with Greenland. I'll be honest. We need that for national and international security.
But not with
I think
Canada?
It's highly unlikely. I don't see it with Canada. I just don't see it. I have to be honest with you.
Okay, but you don't rule it out for Greenland.
And by the way, Canada, they spend less money on military than...
Bro, what is this conversation that's taking place? The United States of America's president is talking about how he won't rule out a military annexation of Greenland, dude. What? Of a NATO nation. Oh my God. And he's like, nah, not Canada. Not Canada. It's fine. We won't do it to Canada. I'll spare Canada.
Practically any nation in the world. They pay NATO less than any nation. They think we're subsidized. They think we are going to protect them. And really...
If you put an Iron Dome in Vermont, we'll put rocket launchers in Montreal. Okay, Canadians, calm down. Okay, calm down. Calm down. All right, chill out. Canadians think they're American for a brief moment when they say stuff like that, where it's like, come on.
We are. But the truth is, they don't carry their full share, and it's unfair to the United States and our taxpayers.
But you are not ruling out military force to take Greenland.
I don't rule it out. I don't say I'm going to do it, but I don't rule out anything. No, not there. We need that. We need Greenland very badly. Greenland is a very small amount of people, which we'll take care of and we'll cherish them and all of that. But we need that for international security. Do you know, we have Russian boats and we have Chinese boats, gunships all over the place, aircraft carriers, gunships, going up and down the coast of Greenland. We need that to be protected. Internationally, we need it.
So you are willing to send U.S. troops to claim a sovereign territory?
I didn't say that. You asked me a question. Would you? Is there a circumstance? It could happen. I doubt it will, but it certainly could happen with respect to Greenland.
Okay, let me ask you about Iran. Your administration has had conversations with Iran. Is the goal of these talks limiting Iran's nuclear program or total dismantlement?
Total dismantlement.
That's all you'll accept?
That's all I'd accept. Okay. Now, there's a new theory going out there that Iran would be allowed to have civilian, meaning to make electricity. But I say, you know, they have so much oil, what do they need it for? But, you know, I've seen it with other states where they're looking to do something and they have a lot of oil. Iran has tremendous energy. You know, I put sanctions, if you know that. I put pretty strong sanctions on 2 days ago on the oil. The sad part is that if Biden didn't get involved, if we had a competent president, you would have never had the attack on Israel. October 7th would have never taken place. Hamas would have had no money because Iran was broke. And now, in a period of 4 years during the Biden administration, they became very rich. They have over $300 billion cash in the bank. And they had no money. They were ready to make a deal with me. And it's very sad. Because of this rigged election, they didn't do it. Just another thing you can mark down to a bad election.
It's interesting what you're saying, though, because Secretary Rubio has said that he would accept, or the idea is there is an openness to accepting peaceful civil nuclear program.
Well, that's what people, I didn't say anything contradictory. I said that people are talking about that, and this is something that's really pretty new in the dialogue. And I'd have to be, my inclination is to say, what do you need that for? You have a lot of oil.
So you want total dismantlement, bottom line.
I think that I would be open to hearing it. Civilian energy, it's called. But, civilian energy often leads to military wars. And we don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple deal. I want Iran to be really successful, really great, really fantastic. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. Okay. If they want to be successful, that's okay. I want them to be so successful. And the Iranian people are incredible. I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon because the world will be destroyed.
There's nothing funnier than him turning around and trying to re-implement the Iran denuclearization agreement, which, of course, the first time around, his signature accomplishment was destroying it at the behest of Israel. So what he's doing, okay, Jerome Powell, he's like, who's the stupid guy that appointed him? Or tax cuts that are slated to sunset. Who's the stupid guy that designed the tax code to sunset by this point? Or the Iran denuclearization agreement is like, who is the dumb guy who told Iran that they no longer have to abide by the denuclearization agreement? It's like everything he's doing. The TMC, oh, dude, NAFTA 2, also known as the TMCA, some guy came in, did a horrible trade deal with Mexico and Canada. Who could have done this? He's literally, or not TCMA, sorry, USMCA. Wait, what the fuck is the US Mexico Canada deal? What was the TCMA? Where did I get that from? Texas City Management Association. No. Anyway, USMCA, you're right. Yeah. Or wait, that's another good one. Who the hell brought all these Venezuelans into the country? Who in the hell would bring all of these Venezuelan Trenderagua gangsters into the country? Trump did all of that. TSMC for semiconductors is what I was it up with. Anyway, it's like every single thing that he's complaining about, he did his first administration. Pretty much.
Just to recap, we're talking about your desire to claim Canada.
Who's doing
Greenland.
Questions now?
What do you say to people?
You forgot the Panama Canal.
Panama Canal. What do you say to people who say they voted for you because they wanted you to end foreign conflicts, not start new?
I don't see that as conflict. I think that's...
Can you explain how he did that? Donald Trump literally extended temporary protected status to Venezuelans on his way out again. Like literally, one of his last acts in office was to extend temporary protected status to Venezuelans. The reason why he did that was because he hates Venezuela. It's like, out of all the authoritarian strongmen that he loves, the one that he has always despised, and I truly don't know why, because it doesn't fit that profile at all, but he hates Maduro. Okay. And in the process of like undermining Venezuela, they greatly escalated the sanctions regime against Venezuela with the express purpose of destroying Venezuela's economy, knowing full well that there would be a population collapse in Venezuela that would then have to go to either Colombia or neighboring countries or other neighboring countries, or come to the United States of America. And he knew that there was going to be a massive amount of people that were escaping Venezuela for a better life in the United States of America, obviously. And he turned around and offered them temporary protected status. He offered them to Haitians as well, but especially Venezuelans. On his way out, he extended additional temporary protected status to the Venezuelan migrants that were coming into the country. So now that he has this like weird smoke for Venezuelans, like it doesn't, I mean, it makes extra less sense, if that makes sense. I don't know why he's decided that he hates Maduro extra hard.
Good for our country, those things. Pee. Look, the Panama Canal was taken over by China effectively. Now China seems to have left, but the Panama Canal, think of this deal. We built the most expensive object we've ever built in the history of our country. That was Mount McKinley. They just took away, I just gave them back the name, but McKinley made the money. Teddy Roosevelt spent the money. McKinley gets very little credit, you know, but he made, you know how he made the money? Through tariffs. He was the big tariff president. Okay, but forget that. We built the Panama Canal. It was the most expensive thing. It would be the equivalent, like almost $2 trillion today. We've never spent it. And it was very successful. And Jimmy Carter gave it away for $1.
Panama insists
This is the kind of leadership
Panama
here.
says they do control the canal, but we have a couple more questions left tonight.
Panama said what?
Little wrap.
Panama said what?
Panama says they still control it. I know you're saying China. Panama says they still control it.
You know,
But-
if you would have gone there about 5.2 months ago,
Yeah.
every single sign on the Panama Canal, with the exception of about 15% of them, was in Chinese.
Yeah. Let me ask you, because we're nearing the end, just a couple more questions here.
I'm not complaining. You keep saying to me like I'm rushing.
No, you're not, and I really appreciate it.
I don't want to
really
rush you. I don't want to
appreciate
make you nervous.
Thank you. The Trump Organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr.
No, I
President,
think-
even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution does prohibit it. Some of your allies are pretty serious about this, though, Mr. President. I've spoken to them. They say they are coming up with potential ways.
Well, that's
Obviously, the biggest one
because-
would be a constitutional amendment.
That's because they like the job I'm doing, and it's a compliment. It's really a great compliment.
Has anyone approached you, though, with an actual plan, a way to actually start the process
Well, there are
of a
ways of doing
constitutional
it.
amendment?
There are ways of doing it, and you know the same thing. And if you look at the vice presidential thing, and you hear different concepts and different other people say you can have a write-in vote. There's lots of different things. With all of that being said, I want to be a great president. I will have served. Hopefully, everything will go well. I feel very good. I just did a physical. I took, unlike all other presidents, I took cognitive tests and I aced it. I got 100% correct. And one doctor said, there were numerous doctors watching. And he said, I've never seen that before. Biden didn't take a cognitive. He couldn't have gotten the first question right. But I came out great with the physical, both physically and mentally. And I just want to serve, do a great job. I'll be an 8-year president. I'll be a 2-term president. I always thought that was very important, to be honest with you. You know, if you look at President Polk, he was a 1-termer and he did some great things, actually. Pretty good president. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but there's something about being a 2-term president that was very important to me.
And just to put a button on it, has anyone in an official capacity presented you with, sir, here are some ideas by which you could actually get a constitutional amendment?
Notice how the number of attempts on his life has diminished drastically since he became president. The people love this man. That's an interesting metric. Interesting metric to look at. Yes, you are correct.
Capacity of being a big supporter of many people have said different things, but I'm not looking at that.
You haven't had official meetings about it?
No. And just so you said, 4 years is a long time. I have almost 4 years. All of these things that we've done more than any president, and even you might admit that. Nobody's done the extent of the things that we've done. Nobody's done this in essentially a little bit more than 3 months. As they say, 100 days. I'm looking to do a great job as president and set the country on the right track, because if I didn't win, this country would have failed. We would have been a failed nation.
You have built a political movement that has transformed the Republican Party. It's transformed the country, quite frankly.
Political movement in history, MAGA. Make America great again.
When you look to the future, Mr. President, Do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
What gives you
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do.
Oh,
and
no.
I really believe in a two-party system.
Oh, no. He's flexing. He's saying, he's doing the Nancy Pelosi. He's like, I want a strong Democratic Party. I want a strong Democrat Party. That's what I want.
Because it's good to be challenged. It's really good to have a two-party. You know, it's good. Being challenged is okay. It keeps you sharp. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And, you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people because he was grossly incompetent. And I think maybe for artificial reasons. You know, he had operations and things. So maybe that's an artificial. But I know people that are unbelievably sharp, and they're older than 87. But I watch Bernie Sanders. He's a nut job, but he's still sharp. He's sharp as he's the same guy he was. He hasn't gone down. But Biden is really, he's the worst thing to happen to old people.
I know that you are only 100 days in, but as we sit here today, who do you see as your successor, Mr. President?
Well, it's far too early to say that, but you know, I do have a vice president, and typically it would be, and JD's doing a fantastic job.
He would be at the top of the list?
It could very well be. I don't want to get involved in that. I think he's a fantastic, brilliant guy. Marco is great. There's a lot of them that are great. I also see tremendous unity. But certainly you would say that somebody's the VP. If that person is outstanding, I guess that person would have an advantage. But I think the other people would all stay in unbelievably high positions. But, you know, it could be that he'd be challenged by somebody. We have a lot of good people in this party.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
That was a masterclass. Masterclass, folks. Master fucking class. Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.